To start this video off, what is love? Well, it's the intense feeling of affection for someone or something. If you were to love someone, that person would always come to your mind. You'd always consider them when making important decisions, and you're constantly thinking about them as you do whatever you do in a day. When they come up in conversation, you only have good things to say about them. If someone were to defame them, you defend their honor to the best of your ability. You're always looking for good things to do for that person. So, if we're on the same page here, if that person you're loving is God, all the things I've mentioned before would apply to him, especially because he's our superior. He even created us, if you look at Genesis chapter 1 verse 27 and Isaiah chapter 45 verse 12. But of course, if we look at Deuteronomy chapter 6 verse 5, you'll see that we have to love God with all our heart. Since it's the verse that this video is centered around, let's read it together. And thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thine heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy might. There's no hoeing around in this relationship. We're not open to the public while also being with God. Our hearts and minds are dedicated to God, and God only, as Samuel the prophet told us in 1 Samuel chapter 12 verse 24. It's like we're God's wife, and it might sound weird, but it was used before in Jeremiah chapter 2 verse 2 in reference to the nation of ancient Israel. Anyway, a wife is a helper to the husband, as we can deduce from 1 Corinthians chapter 11 verse 3 and Genesis chapter 3 verse 16. And 1 Corinthians chapter 11 verse 3 says, "But I would have you know that the head of every man is Christ, and the head of the woman is the man, and the head of Christ is God." So, since we are God's wife in a sense, our duty is to serve him with all loyalty. If you are a man, well, think of it this way. God is the king, and a king always has completely loyal servants in this palace. You, a Christian, are a servant in this palace, and your duty is to serve the Lord with all diligence, with all your heart, soul, and might. This is the way to show your love and loyalty to God, the king. This type of thing with servants has also been used before to refer to the relationship between God and mankind in Luke chapter 17 verses 7 to 10. On the other hand, people who don't completely love God and aren't loyal servants in his palace tend to forget about him from time to time. They rarely think about God and only come to the spiritual workplace on Sundays from about 10 a.m. to 3 p.m., and then they're off to go do something else. They may read the Bible from time to time, but not for long. Whenever persecution comes concerning the faith, God is completely abandoned without a second thought. However, when there's a problem that they think God can solve, they're right back to beg him for what they want. The Israelites were masters at this. They had played this game with God by serving other gods and then coming right back to Jehovah when they needed his help, countless times. One example is when they did it in Judges chapter 6 verses 1 to 9, and God empowered Gideon to help them. When tough life decisions are to be made, they don't think about God. They don't go to the king for advice. They instead think about what other people, worth as much as a servant like themselves, think, and make decisions off of them and their standards, leaving the king and his royal heavenly associates behind. The Israelites also did this in 1 Samuel chapter 8 verses 1 to 9, when they communed among themselves and asked Samuel to give them a king, so that they could be like other nations. What God thought about the matter didn't really occur to them or matter to them. However, a child of God, a loyal servant in the castle, and a lover of truth and righteousness would do no such thing. They will stick by God, even if it's inconvenient, hard, or even fatal, as we can see in Hebrews chapter 3 verse 14 and in Acts chapter 20 verse 24, where Paul said, "But none of these things move me, neither count I my life dear unto myself, so that I might finish my course with joy, and the ministry which I have received of the Lord Jesus, to testify the gospel of the grace of God." They search out ways to please the king and do what's best for their spiritual lives. That is how you love the Lord with all your heart, as is required from all Christians in Deuteronomy chapter 6 verse 5, and how you be a loyal servant in the kingdom. And that is it for the answer to how do I love the Lord with all my heart, as we see in Deuteronomy chapter 6 verse 5. If you like this video, then you can like it, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you'll be right back here when I post again. Have a great day, and I'll hopefully see you soon.